our perfect engagement party guest, until she revealed my fiancé's deepest secret. He swept me into a dance under fairy lights, laughter ringing around us like a promise, yet I couldn't shake the feeling that perfection was a fragile thing. I'm Clara, 29, living in a cozy urban bungalow with my fiancé, Caleb. Tonight was our engagement party, an intimate gathering of our closest friends and family. Twinkling lanterns hung from the apple tree, mason jars held wildflowers, and a long wooden table groaned under platters of heirloom tomatoes, crusty bread, and herb-roasted chicken. My best friend Sienna manned the cocktail station. Clara's Cosmos, in honor of me, and my mother fussed with the dessert table, arranging lemon tarts and dark chocolate truffles with the precision of a jeweler stringing pearls. Guests trickled in, cheeks flushed with congratulations. My little sister, Emma, squealed when she hugged me. "I can't believe it, Mrs. Rebecca soon." My heart squeezed at her teasing, at the shallow dent Caleb's ring made against my palm. He caught my hand as I turned, eyes gleaming. He pressed the ring in a silent promise before lifting his glass. "To us," he toasted, voice warm and steady. "And to nights like this." Glasses clinked. I took a sip of champagne, bubbles dancing on my tongue, and let the joy wash over me. Friends exchanged stories of our first date, ramen in a neon-lit shop, our first kiss, by the old movie theater, and how we'd fallen into each other's lives like two puzzle pieces. Everywhere I looked, faces glowed with happiness, and my chest swelled with gratitude. Yet beneath the laughter, a soft whisper of doubt curled in my mind. Nothing this good lasts forever. I brushed it aside as soon as it arrived. Who was I to distrust a man who looked at me as if I were his whole world? Later, Caleb and I drifted to a quieter corner by the garden fountain. The water tinkled, petals floated across the stone basin, and the scent of jasmine drifted on the breeze. He tucked a stray hair behind my ear and murmured, "You're radiant tonight." I smiled, tracing the rim of my glass. "I feel almost too lucky." He laughed softly. "That's because you are." I leaned into him, letting the moment stretch. Around us, the party pulsed with warmth, friends dancing to an acoustic set, children chasing fireflies, my parents swaying under the lantern glow. I closed my eyes and said a silent thank you to the universe. But then, just for a heartbeat, I remembered last year's heartbreak. A different man, a different ring, a sudden farewell in the pouring rain. The memory hovered at the edge of my mind, a shadow at the party's edge. I pushed it away, reminding myself that Caleb was steady where the last man had been reckless. Mom called us over for our first anniversary toast. Glasses refilled, she raised her voice. "To the best daughter a mother could ask for, finding love that shines brighter every day." She fluttered a napkin at her eyes, and I blinked back tears. I looked at Caleb, at the faces of those I loved, and a fierce protectiveness bloomed in my chest. Nothing could touch this. Not ever again. Tonight was perfect. Sunset gold on the grass, candlelight flickering on smiling lips, laughter weaving bonds stronger than steel. And yet, as I watched Caleb raise his glass to me, I couldn't help but wonder, would that bond hold when the shadows crept back in? I forced back the unease, lifting my glass. "To love," I said, voice steady. But underneath, my heart whispered one small question: what if something goes wrong? And as the chorus of cheers rang out, I felt the first tremor beneath my perfect night, a tremor I vowed not to ignore. We'd barely finished clearing plates when she appeared at the garden gate, tall, elegant, with shoulder-length auburn hair and a knowing smile. I didn't recognize her at first, until Caleb's face registered surprise, then something unreadable. He rose to greet her as if she were royalty. "Clara, meet Rachel," he introduced, voice bright but slightly strained. "An old friend." She slipped into my hand, cool and confident. "Clara, congratulations," she purred. Her eyes danced under lamplit ivy. "You look stunning." "Thank you." I managed, small lump in my throat. "I'm so glad you could make it." Rachel's laugh was low and melodic. She glanced around, as if taking in her kingdom. "It's a beautiful celebration. You two truly shine." She gave Caleb a warm hug, too warm. Their familiarity prickled my skin. She slipped into the circle of guests with effortless grace, accepting hugs and applause. My friends murmured greetings. My mother beamed at the newcomer. "Rachel, you're welcome anytime," Mom cooed. As the quartet launched into our next song, an upbeat waltz, Rachel turned to me. "May I?" She lifted a hand toward Caleb. I swallowed and stepped aside. Caleb took her hand, flash of old intimacy in their clasp, and began to waltz. I watched from the edge of the lawn as she leaned in close, laughing at something he whispered. My chest tightened. A whispered voice at my elbow startled me. "Are you all right?" Sienna, ever vigilant, offered me a flute of champagne. I forced a smile. "Of course. I just didn't know she'd be here." Sienna followed my gaze. "She seems nice." I nodded, but couldn't look away. Over the next hour, Rachel worked the room. She complimented my dress. "Dare I say, you've outdone yourself," and praised our menu choices, launching into a detailed critique of the olive tapenade seasoning. She made sure to catch the eyes of every guest, building rapport so thoroughly it felt strategic. When she found my sister, Emma, she swept her into a hug. "You must be Clara's little sis. I've heard so much." She pinched Emma's cheek. Emma laughed, but I saw the quick glance she shot me. Rachel drifted over to my brother, Liam, dropping a conspiratorial comment. "Your sister always had great taste, first in men, then in food." My brother's eyebrows rose. He smiled, but his grip on his wine glass tightened. The most unsettling moment came when Rachel sidled next to Caleb at the barbecue station. She tapped his forearm and said, "Remember our road trip to Napa? That night by the owls?" His grin flickered, nostalgia or regret, I couldn't tell. I cleared my throat and stepped forward. "We were just tasting the sausages." I offered Rachel a plate. She took it, eyes never leaving Caleb. "Thank you," she said softly, then turned to me. "I can't wait to catch up, sister." Sister. The word rolled between us like a dare. My heart stuttered. Rachel's tone was too warm, too familiar. It suggested a closeness I hadn't been privy to, and one I wasn't sure I wanted. Yet she was polite, helpful, even generous. She refilled water glasses, helped gather tableware, and volunteered to collect sparklers for our send-off. Guests praised her graciousness. By dessert time, I found myself on edge. Every time Caleb laughed at one of her jokes, I felt invisible. When he excused himself for a moment, I followed him into the rose garden, forcing calm. "How do you know her?" I asked, closing the distance between us. He turned, guilt flickering. "We met at a mutual friend's wedding. A long time ago?" His jaw tightened. 7 years. "And you two have stayed in touch? Closer than before?" He ran a hand through his hair. "She helped me through a rough patch after my last breakup and, well, she's been supportive." I nodded, trying to trust him. "Okay." He pressed my hand. "Thanks for understanding." But as he leaned in for a kiss, I felt a whisper of doubt in my chest, tiny, insistent, like a knot tying itself around my heart. The celebration sparkled around us, but in the hush of the roses, I realized the perfect night had gained an uninvited edge, the subtle friction of a past I didn't fully know. And as Rachel's laughter drifted on the breeze, I couldn't shake the sense that her arrival marked not just congratulations, but the first stroke of a secret I was about to unearth. In the days after the engagement party, Rachel's shadow lingered over our lives. Beneath the glow of newlywed bliss, I felt a slow, nagging chill, like a window left cracked in winter. It began with small things. I returned home from work to find Caleb's phone buzzing on the kitchen island. I picked it up, a text from Rachel. "So great to see you tonight. Can't wait for our girls' spa day." Spa day? I hadn't agreed to anything. I showed Caleb. He frowned, sliding the phone from my hand. "I must have texted her by accident," he said. "Sorry." I nodded, swallowing the unease. Everyone makes accidental texts. The next evening, I invited my college roommates for wine and fondue. Laughter bubbled through my living room as we reminisced about dorm pranks and final exams. Suddenly, Rachel slipped in behind me. No knock, no warning, just a presence at the doorway. "Surprise!" she cooed. "Thought I'd drop by and see the happy couple." My heart lurched. "Rachel, you're early." She smiled, eyeing the spread. "I thought a surprise visit would be fun." She eased into a chair between my friends as if she belonged. I flinched when she teased one roommate about her career choice. "I always admired your courage," she said, voice dripping warmth. Yet the compliment felt like a jab. "You're brave because I empower you." I cleared my throat. "It's been a long day." Rachel poured herself wine. "I remember those days," she sighed, hand on her chest. "Transitions can be hard." She sighed again, a practice note that sent a pulse of anger through me. Late that night, after guests left, I found Caleb scrolling through his phone in the bedroom. "She's very present," I said, voice low. He tucked the phone under his pillow. "She's just being friendly." "Friendly," I repeated. "Is that what we're calling it?" He rubbed his face. I trust her. But I wondered what he wasn't telling me. Over the next week, subtle stories seeped into our conversations. Rachel dropped references to times. "He blew me a kiss when you weren't looking." Or, "How he always defended me at office parties." She framed them as innocent nostalgia, but each tale planted a seed of doubt. When she mentioned his nickname for her, Binks, the sound made me bristle. Why hadn't he told me? At work, I scrolled through my phone on my lunch break, poring over her social media. Photos of them in matching holiday sweaters, toasting champagne on New Year's Eve, voices smiling. Their captions, #BrotherAnsis, proud, possessive. I screenshot them, heart thumping. That evening, I confronted him. "Why didn't you tell me you two were this close?" He stood in the doorway, backlit by the hallway lamp. "It was just the two of us, always a little inside thing." I pressed on. "When we were house hunting, you never mentioned her. When we picked our wedding date, you didn't check with her." He ran a hand over his face. "I didn't want to worry you. It would have seemed weird." "Weird?" I echoed. "Your family. My future family. She's practically your sister in every sense." He sighed. "She's complicated. She needs me." "You need her?" Anger flared. "What about me?" He looked away. "Of course I need you." But his eyes were distant, haunted. Isolation crept in. Friends began to look at me sideways, as if I were the outsider. When I mentioned plans for a weekend getaway, they all asked, "What about Rachel? Is she okay with that?" I never thought to check if my sister-in-law approved of our vacation. At the next dinner party, Rachel led a toast. "To family, blood may thicken, but chosen family lasts forever." She tipped her glass to me with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Glasses clinked. My ring finger felt tight. Later, I overheard her whisper to Caleb. "Maybe she needs a little reminder that she's not center stage any longer." Her words settled like stones in my stomach. I confronted her afterward in the garden, lit by the moon's soft glow. "Why do you keep telling him things, to undermine me?" I hissed. She tilted her head, feigning innocence. "I'm looking out for him, and you. This is his family. I just want you to realize that." I trembled. "Realize what?" "That life isn't just about weddings," she said, voice condescending. "It's about history." And then she turned and walked away, leaving me standing among the roses, thorns pricking my palms. I sank onto a bench, head swirling. Doubt slithered in. Am I overreacting? My heart thundered. Or is she trying to steal the life we built? On the ride home, I curled in the passenger seat, phone in hand, rereading Rachel's messages. The windows steamed with my tears. I realized I was fighting for something precious, but I wasn't sure who my ally was, or who had turned our perfect world into a house of cards. As the city lights streamed past, I braced myself. The uncomfortable truth was unspooling fast. Beneath Rachel's charm lay a force determined to shatter my trust, isolate me, and reclaim the one man I'd risked everything for. The next move was mine, and I wasn't sure I knew how to play this twisted game. It was supposed to be our first dinner party as an engaged couple, an intimate gathering at our home with 4 close friends, champagne and firelight, laughter filling every corner. Instead, it became the stage for Rachel's masterpiece of betrayal. I'd spent all afternoon cooking garlic rosemary lamb chops, roasted fingerling potatoes, and a fresh arugula salad with lemon vinaigrette. The table was set in our dining room, candles flickering around the centerpiece of white tulips. Caleb poured our guests glasses as I brought out the first course. Everyone settled in, plates passed, conversation flowing. Rachel arrived fashionably late, sliding in through the front door after I'd barely taken my seat. She leaned in to kiss Caleb's cheek, to intimate a greeting, and fixed me with a sweet smile. "This looks divine, sister," she purred, tracing the tulips with a fingertip. My stomach clenched. We ate, and for a while, the evening hummed along. Laughter at old stories, teasing about my disastrous first attempt at soufflé years ago. Yet whenever I glanced at Rachel, I caught her watching Caleb over her wine glass, eyes glinting with something wild, like a lion assessing territory. After dessert, poached pears and cream, we moved to the living room for brandy. Rachel claimed her favorite, and Caleb poured a generous measure. She raised her glass to me. "To the happy couple," she toasted, "and to secrets well kept." My breath hitched. "Secrets?" I echoed softly. She took a slow sip, all innocence. "You know, those little details that make life interesting." Her gaze drifted to Caleb. He stiffened, jaw tightening as he refocused on his brandy. Before I could respond, she placed her glass down and rose. "Excuse me, everyone. I have a story to share." The room fell silent. I looked at Caleb, alarm flaring. "Rachel." She held up her hands graceful. "Please, just listen." She began with a calm, melodic voice. "Years ago, before Clara and Caleb were even a twinkle in each other's eyes, Caleb and I had something deep, something he never told you about." She paused, eyes sweeping the room. "We had a child together." Gasps erupted. My fork clattered onto the coffee table. Caleb's color drained. I stammered, "That's not possible." Rachel's lips curved. "It's very possible, dear sister. His son, Jackson, arrived just months before he met you." Caleb walked away. "He signed away all rights." Caleb rose, voice hoarse. "You promised you'd never." Rachel waved him down. "I promised you silence. But not honesty." She turned to me. "I thought you deserved the truth before you married him." My mind spun. A child? I stared at Rachel's composed face, at the ceiling-stained wine glass in her hand. I felt the room tilt. Friends stood abruptly. Jenna's mouth hung open. Mark's eyes narrowed. The toasting glasses wobbled in someone's hand. Rachel pressed on. "He was a devoted father those first years, until work and guilt and other things pulled him away. He let an innocent boy be raised by foster parents. I fought for him. But he chose his career over his child." She looked at Caleb. "Isn't that right?" Caleb's head lolled back, tears forming at his eyes. "It wasn't planned. It was hidden," Rachel snapped. "He never told you. He was living a lie." My heart cracked. I'd pledged myself to this man. I loved him fiercely. But I'd married someone with a secret child. My chest heaved. I turned to our friends. "Did any of you know this?" They shook their heads, speechless. Caleb stumbled forward. "Clara, please." I was ashamed. "I wanted to protect you, and Jackson." I blinked back tears. "Protect me?" I whispered. "By lying?" Rachel folded her arms. "I loved him once, but he betrayed both of us. You deserve the truth." Silence swallowed the room. The candles guttered. I felt the crackle of betrayal like a live wire against my skin. Caleb sank into the armchair, head in his hands. I sank opposite, trembling. My world, the laughter, the love, the perfect night, had exploded into shards. Rachel took her leave without a backwards glance, murmuring to Caleb, "We'll fix this for Jackson." She slipped out into the night, heels clicking on the porch steps. I sat numb, staring at Caleb as the door clicked. The friends I'd known for years didn't know what to do. They hovered, hands out, waiting for direction. Caleb looked up, eyes swollen. "I'm so sorry," he whispered. I closed my eyes. Sorry could never piece me back together. And as the door latched behind Rachel, my sister, I realized our perfect love story had a secret chapter written by someone else. A chapter one never asked for and one I wasn't sure I could read. The morning after Rachel's bombshell, our home felt hollow, laughter replaced by an eerie silence. I woke on the couch, curled beneath a throw, my cheeks damp with tears. The coffee table was a graveyard of empty glasses and stained napkins. In the harsh light of day, I realized I didn't know the man I married. Caleb emerged from the bedroom, eyes rimmed red. His clothes from last night were crumpled on the floor. He held a mug of coffee in shaking hands. I stared at him, every pulse pounding with betrayal. "I can explain," he began, voice low. I didn't tell you because I was ashamed. And I was afraid you'd leave." I pressed my lips together. "You were afraid of me over your own son? You hid a child from me, including from yourself." He swallowed hard. "I know I hurt you. But it wasn't just mine to share. Whose was it?" I snapped. He flinched. "Rachel's. She begged me to stay out of Jackson's life, said she'd handle everything." My head spun. "She manipulated you. And now she manipulates me." He sank onto the couch. "I thought I was protecting you. I thought I'd tell you when the time was right." I laughed, a harsh, broken sound. "There is no right time for this kind of betrayal. You built our life on lies." He stared at his coffee. "I love you, Clara." I drew a breath. "Love doesn't live in secrecy. It lives in truth." I rose and paced the living room, mind racing. The wedding photos on the mantel, the vows we'd spoken, the ring pressed into my palm, all mocking me now. "I want to know everything," I said, voice trembling. "Why he didn't fight for Jackson, what you felt, what promises you broke." Tears glistened in his eyes. "I was broken, Clara. After my divorce to her, I felt like a failure. I threw myself into work, into rebuilding. She moved on, but I was stuck in guilt. Then I met you." His voice cracked. "You gave me joy I thought I lost, so I buried the past to hold on to the future." I stopped, anger quelling into sorrow. "At what cost?" He reached for me. "I'm sorry." I shook my head. "Sorry isn't enough." Later, I called Rachel. Her response was calm, too calm. "I'm just a messenger, sister." She leaned into our shared joke, weaponizing it. "I did it for Jackson. By destroying my life?" I demanded. Her laugh was cold. "I did it for all our sakes. You deserve to know the truth." I slammed down the phone, breath whistling in my chest. The ex, and the husband I'd loved, had ganged up on me in public, in private, and I felt stranded between them. That afternoon, I gathered our nearest friends at my apartment. Sienna, Emma, and my sister-in-law, Laura, filled the living room, faces tight with concern. I laid out what I'd learned, the custody battle, the hidden son, Rachel's manipulation. Sienna's jaw clenched. "You need time. He needs to earn back your trust." Emma's eyes were fiery. "He lied to you. I would never let someone do that to you." Laura, Caleb's cousin, spoke carefully. "Family dynamics are messy. But you two have to decide if you can rebuild." I nodded, tears slipping. "I feel so alone. Betrayed by the man I thought I knew, and still haunted by the woman he couldn't let go of." They exchanged looks. "We're here," Sienna said, placing a hand on mine. My phone buzzed, a text from Caleb. "Please come home. I'll explain as much as I can." I stared at the screen. Did I want more explanations or the space to heal? That night, I lay awake in our bed, my bed, I realized, no longer our bed. The silk sheets were cool against my skin, but they felt foreign. I thought of Jackson, his small face blurred by tears at the door. He was his mother's son and his father's, yet I loved him too, called him my nephew, welcomed him, unknowingly, into my heart. I closed my eyes and made a choice. I would not let their past dictate my future. I would confront Caleb, seek the truth, and decide if we could survive this. But I would not remain a ghost in my own life, haunted by secrets and half-truths. As the dawn light filtered through the curtains, I whispered to the empty room. Tomorrow, I fight for honesty, or I fight for me. And in that moment, I realized the battle was no longer about Rachel or Caleb. It was about reclaiming my own voice, my own worth, and the right to demand the love I deserve. The morning sun streamed through the blinds as I sat at the kitchen table, a single cup of tea steaming between my hands. Last night's confrontation with Caleb had ended in more questions than answers. His apologies heartfelt but hollow, Rachel's motives still swirling in my mind like storm clouds. Today, I would decide whether to salvage my marriage or reclaim my life on my own terms. I dressed in a simple wrap dress, comfortable but confident, and ran a brush through my hair. My phone buzzed, a text from Caleb, asking to meet at our favorite cafe. I stared at the message, thumb hovering over. Accept. My heart thudded. I thought of our wedding vows, our shared dreams, and also of the deceit that had fractured them. I took a deep breath and typed back. I'm not sure what I want. I need space today. The reply came almost instantly. I understand. I love you, Clara. I closed my eyes. Those words had lost meaning for me. Love sounded empty without transparency. Stepping outside, I inhaled the crisp air. The city felt alive, people hustling, cyclists whizzing by, shop doors opening to morning light. I walked without a destination, letting my thoughts settle like leaves on a pond. By noon, I found myself at the community center where I'd volunteered to teach art classes last month. The walls were lined with paintings by local artists, hopeful, vibrant expressions of renewal. I signed in at the front desk and climbed the stairs to the studio, where a blank canvas waited. My canvas. I set up my paints and stood before it, brush in hand. Memories of last night, Caleb's eyes pleading, Rachel's cold triumph, burst in my mind's eye. I dipped the brush in cobalt blue and swiped it across the canvas. Then emerald green, and a streak of sunrise orange. The colors collided, merging into a pattern that felt both chaotic and beautiful. An hour later, I stepped back. The painting was unbeaten, swirling shapes that hinted at a broken circle striving to reform. I felt a spark of pride. This was my truth, fractured yet seeking wholeness. My phone dinged with a support message from Sienna. Thinking of you? Dinner later? I smiled and replied, yes, I'd love that. Over soup and laughter at our local bistro, Sienna listened as I recounted my morning. I told her I decided to step away. Not because I didn't love Caleb, but because I loved myself more. You're choosing peace, she said, eyes shining. Brave and beautiful. I nodded, tears of relief prickling. I need a future built on honesty. If he can't give me that, then I need to walk away. That evening, I packed a small bag with necessities, jeans, a few blouses, my favorite journal. I emailed my landlord to transfer the lease solely to me. I typed a farewell message to Caleb. Clara, I can't keep living in shadows. I need a life without secrets. I value what we had, but I choose myself now. I hope you heal. Clara. I hit send and let my phone rest on the table. My heart hammered, but beneath it lay a river of calm. As night fell, I returned to my studio and added final touches to the canvas, flecks of bright gold, a symbol of what endures through fracture. I titled it, Resilience. A call came from Caleb. Please talk. I silenced the phone. I'd fought enough for answers. My decision was made. That week, I moved into my new apartment, walls painted a soft dove gray, a cozy reading nook, my sunflower painting from the engagement party now replaced by Resilience above the fireplace. I hosted a small housewarming with close friends, They toasted to new beginnings and to the woman who dared to choose herself. One morning, as I sipped coffee on my balcony, I found a message in my inbox, an invitation to an art show featuring resilience. The curator wrote, "Your piece speaks to so many. Would you like to exhibit?" My breath caught. I pictured my work hanging in a gallery, a testament to my journey. I replied with a single word, "Yes." That night, I stood on the balcony, city lights twinkling, painting in hand beside me. I thought of Rachel's parting gift, of Caleb's whispered apologies, of the life I once believed in. Now they were echoes, lessons guiding me forward. I closed my eyes and whispered to the stars. I was called sister to hide a secret, but I found my truth and my strength. The future glowed before me, unwritten and wide open. And for the first time, I felt ready to fill it with my own colors, no shadows allowed.